It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, March 24th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that has to consider, are winner points better than loser points?
Fans are conflicted.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but we'll get into this game. We're going to do a catch up on the draft rankings and preview the weekend matchup against Detroit.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here with Russ Cohen, coming to you from the Wells Fargo Center, who is on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. That is where you can keep up to date with all of our episodes and Flyers news. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Locked On Flyers is free and available anywhere you listen to podcasts, so subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, what happened with Nick Delorier there? It seems like he has an injury, but I thought for a minute there he was going to be in the game based on warm-ups.
Yeah, he tweaked something right before the game, so they scratched him last minute. There's no telling what that was.
Yeah, I guess they'll find out in the next couple days or so. As to the game itself, I think, based on our preview, one of the things we talked about was, the Wild and their low scoring games, and they have a really strong D. I thought the Flyers actually did a pretty good job solving their defense and were able to dominate in shots and high danger chances.
Yeah, they definitely were. It was a struggle at times, but when they kind of did figure it out for moments, they found openings. They certainly could have been more efficient. There were times where they were passing up good shots for I'm not sure what. But, in the end, it did work out for them. The resiliency has been there all year, so you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I think you do too. And I thought it was a more balanced look from the Flyers offense. In the last couple of times, the younger guys have kind of stepped up and the vets had been left in the dust. But this was more balanced. We had, Scott Lawton with a goal, JVR with the shootout winner. And I just felt like it was more of a team effort.
It was more of a team effort. It was one of those things where the zone entries were much better. There was a time in that second period it was shaky though, and it didn't look great. But they were able to overcome that. And Carter Hart wasn't like sharp and he wasn't bad, but he came up big in the shootout. Yeah, this is definitely a team effort. This was one where I think even though their defense would like a few of these plays back, like they let Boldy walk in, they sort of let the other. Foligno walk in, but in the end, it worked out for them because they actually were able to score. And that this scoring that they've added, the last 4 or 5 games has made a difference in these close games. But again, the differential isn't great, but a win's a win.
Yeah. Speaking of those goals, Joel Farabee 4-game goal streak. I think. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but I don't think it was a flash in the pan now in terms of getting that monkey off his back. It feels like he's really got it dialed. Things aren't perfect, but he understands what he has to do to get the puck in the net now.
Yeah, we talked about it. We knew it was sort of like a mental block, and now he's playing good. When he was asked about what was the reason maybe that he kind of got on track, he looked for Sam Carchidi, who I'm filling in for tonight. So he couldn't find him. He said, I think when Sam chirped me about, not scoring in 26 games, maybe that was it. And he smiled. So that was funny. He looked for Sam. That was really good. But, it was a good moment.
That's adorable. Speaking of adorable, Tyson Foerster, when the Wild went up late in the game,
Hmm.
just you get this pit in your stomach, like, oh, like I don't want them to lose this way. And
Hmm.
Tyson Foerster right away was like, not on my watch. Scored on a laser of a shot. That's the shot that Torts loves. But
Yeah,
I also thought he had a pretty good game overall. He had a couple other good chances, and I thought he stuck with some of the stronger Wild guys physically in battles.
he had a solid game. There's no question he was good away from the puck. That was a great shot, like you said. I know people are getting carried away, like, "Hey, it's better than Line A." It's not quite, but it's really
No.
good. It's really good, and it's just when you're really lacking a shot like that on the team, it's noticeable when someone has it like him. So
Hmm.
that's great. He gets his second goal. He's happy, and he'll get sent down, and he'll be okay with it. Torts is okay with it, so that's fine.
Yeah, 2 goals and 4 assists in the last 4 games for Tyson Foerster, which is, I think, a pretty good record if he
Oh
winds
yeah,
up going down to Lehigh Valley at this point. I'm not sure if he'll play on Saturday for the Flyers or not, since the Phantoms have uh, games on
yeah. That'll
Saturday
be
and
the interesting
Sunday.
thing. We don't really know how it's going to all work out yet.
We don't. So that's something we will definitely keep an eye on over the weekend. I also want to talk about Egor Zamula with his next game in the books. That penalty he took, I think that's something he needs to work on a little bit in terms of desperation mode. He's
Hmm.
bigger, and he needs to know that he can do it without taking the penalty.
Yeah, I think so. And Torts talked about a turnover he had, but he still thought he played okay, and he did. It wasn't as good as the last game. No, it wasn't. But you know, it's what you expect from a young player. There's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah, and I think Travis Sanheim had his second better game in a
Yes.
row.
Yeah, it was a big deal. I did write about that because I thought he seems more on track now. The zone entry on that play where he brings it up the ice and then all of a sudden somebody's able to chip it to him in like an open space. Then he gets it to who did score that goal now? Was it Lawton? I think it
Hmm.
was, yeah, Lawton, and that was nice. So um, really heads up. These are things you would thought he would do all year. Um, the interesting thing is, after the game, Torch is like, well, everybody thinks we're fighting. We're not fighting. It's just when I see more, I want more, and I demand it. And it's like, yeah, okay, John, but you were kind of not liking him. Like, just
Mean.
own up.
Let's just be
Yeah, just
plain
just
about
own
it.
it.
He was
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, just own up to it. Like he tries to soften it after the fact, and we all know better. But if it works, great. He basically said for him and Farabee, he just wants them to kind of like be able to leave after the season, have a good mindset going into the summer. I get that. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about how the overtime went. I mean, obviously nobody scored, so it wasn't great for the Flyers, but I thought that despite that structure, they managed to pull it together for the last minute and a half or so and actually get some quality shots.
Yeah, they did get some shots. They did kill off a penalty, so we'll give them credit for that.
Hmm.
Um, Matt Boldy, who was hot that game, and we talked about Matt Boldy. If he'd have scored on that weird turnaround shot, it
Uh,
wouldn't have shocked. It wouldn't have surprised me. So yeah, there were some shots to be had and all that. And the first, like you said, first bit of overtime wasn't great, but yeah, they managed to get through it. And who would expect them to win in a shootout? But they did.
yeah, Carter Hart was fantastic in the shootout, that's for
Yeah.
sure. All right. Well, that'll do it for this game. Up next, we are going to look at Russ's draft rankings list, version 2.0, and see what changes there might have been, as well as how the Flyers might approach the draft based on those rankings. We'll do that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. If you don't have players on the field or on the ice with the right skills, whether it's breakaway speed or elite playmaking ability, you're going to have a tough time winning, and the same goes for your business. Indeed is a fast, simple way to make sure you're hiring MVPs. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find the right candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. One of the things that I love about Indeed is that they put everything in one place. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. You can find great talent through time saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, over 90% of employers get quality candidates as soon as they sponsor their job post. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search. Start hiring right now with $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at indeed.com/locked on. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to indeed.com/locked on to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, Russ. So I thought it would be a good time and timely based on the fact that you have now posted your 2.0 draft rankings to do a check in, especially with the Flyers being a little bit more volatile in the
Yeah.
placement that they are in the lottery tankathon list right now. And, we've seen them as high as 5, but based on the fact that they're winning, they're moving a little bit further down, and pros and cons to that, and we've gone over that ad nauseum.
Oh, yeah.
But, first off, were there any significant changes for you in your draft prospect rankings since version 1.0?
Yeah, I moved Dimitri's look. I think I had him about 13th, and he's 11th now. Top 10, he's a defenseman, plays in the MHL. Really, really good. So many skills. Actually, I had him at 19, so that's a pretty big jump. He continues to just have all these tools, speed, just great hands. Definitely could play defense. Don't know about his full defensive play because it's very hard to tell with the MHL. Like, there's always going to be a couple of players every draft that I don't even put on my draft board, simply because just watching video of the MHL, it takes a while to figure out who's even good. And then when you know who's good,
Mhm.
then to see if the player is good. Like, it takes a little doing. So, but with Simashevy's the real deal. So that's something where he took a significant jump. Um, Another jump would be Ryan Leonard. Now I've gotten the top 10.
Right.
It's a big jump. I had him at 11, but I always feel like top 10 is significant, or at least it is in my mind when trying to do these lists. And Leonard interviewed early in the year. I wanted to see how he would do throughout the year. He's had a very good year. He's got this bulldog mentality. He takes puck battles personally. Like, he's the kind of guy that any coach would love. A guy like Tortorella would love this guy because he finds his way to the net. He's one of the few guys that sort of looks like ripped, like Jack Eichel was as a young prospect. And a lot of times young prospects still need to work on strength, and a lot of times they're lanky. Not the case with him. And so, not the biggest guy, about 5'10", but really, really talented. Another jump was Andrew Cristal. Andrew Cristal, actually not a jump. He went from 10 to 16. So he went down. He
Right.
honestly, he's a guy that went down just based on the field. Everybody got better, and I just didn't feel like he got better. So that was one where that wasn't really his fault. Um, just looking to see differences here for you. Gabe Perreault is an interesting one. Right now, he has stayed steady at 18 for me. I think he has 100 points. But the problem is he doesn't have great speed. His brother Jacob is already an NHL prospect. Same thing. Jacob was a really good offensive player, but didn't have the speed or the defense. Perreault has more offense, still not the best speed, and okay on defense, but he's playing on the top line on the NTDP, and I never see him away from it. Even at the All-American Prospects game, I was hoping they would use him on a different line, and they didn't. So you never want to say one guy is benefiting from his line mates, but if anybody is, I do think it's him. Whether that's fair or not. I can give you one that's from who just got on the list, and a couple guys. Michael Harabel, goalie in the USHL. I interviewed him very early in the season. Big goalie. I mean, I think he's 6'4", 6'5". So he's a guy to sort of look out for. Jason Shogabay, I have at 46 right now. Jason Shogabay is this is a guy who's a Minnesota native. So of course, Flyers fans should definitely know who he is, just in case. But probably going to go early part or middle of the second round. Won the Mr. Hockey Award. So guys like Ryan McDonough have won that award. That's it's a pretty big time award. Terrific playmaker. I got a quote from an NHL scout thinking he's, if not the best, one of the best playmakers in the draft. So he's definitely someone to watch for. Aaron Pionk. I think I have him at 42. What did I have him? Oh no, he's holding steady at. No, was he on? Hold on. No, yeah, he's holding steady at 42. That's Neil Pionk's brother. I got to see him at the All-American Prospects game. Have tracked him since, and he's another one that looks really good. And Neil Pionk, like even when the Rangers traded him, I'm like, yeah, he seems like he's all offense, not much else, and he's turned into a really good all-around defenseman and even better offensively than I thought. So Aaron has similar traits, so he's one of those guys too.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's in that zone where the Flyers would have been in the second round, but currently do not have a pick, which is part of the problem that we've talked about quite a bit. But looking at the first round, I think that, right now they're in the 6th slot. I'm thinking they'll end up a little bit further down, like in 7 or 8 by the time the season is over. And so the good news is that's like right in the Oliver Moore range.
It is.
And that's who we've talked about him on the show before. You mentioned Ryan Leonard, who's in your top 10. We talked about him as a little bit of a reach at the time, but he's somebody that intrigues me as well. The name that's sort of sandwiched in the middle with Will Smith, who again we profiled on the show before, is Dalibor Dvorsky, who we talked about in the context of World Juniors, but haven't really focused on him as far as the Flyers. And he's a center, and somebody, that's a position that the Flyers could be looking at, just mostly because there's a lot of centers in that area of the draft. But we haven't talked about Dvorsky yet.
A couple different reasons. There are some people that don't have him as high as me because they feel like he's just a defensive center. And I kind of think he's a little more than that. I do. They all agree he's going to play in the NHL. Like, everybody likes him. He doesn't get talked about a lot because he's playing overseas. He's not in the public eye. So all these other guys are still playing, and you don't really think about him. But I was impressed with him. I like his hockey IQ. I thought he could score a little bit. I don't know if they would take him. I think they would rather have the U.S. kids, and that's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Now, there's always that thing where, what if we trade down and we get 2 picks? Now, I'm never in favor of that. And I made that voice because I just don't like the idea of it. So that was like kind of like my nerdy, let's get 2 for 1 kind of thing. And it didn't work out in Cole Caulfield as far as I could see. It's okay for the Flyers, but it didn't work out as much of a home run maybe as they thought, right? In this draft, it is a deeper draft, and I'm not going to say they'll work out better because I still think Zach Benson, Will Smith, Dvorsky, Oliver Moore, I think they still have a certain pedigree. But if they went down and they traded to where they could get like Quentin Musty, I just interviewed him yesterday. He's actually a Hamburg, New York guy. So he's a Buffalo guy. He's going to be at the combine literally on his home ice. Like, that's he played at that rink, and he's a big power forward, really good hands. His speed is good, and he's having just a tremendous year in Sudbury, which, by the way, is much colder than Buffalo, which is hard to believe any place is, but he said, yeah, it is. He could be a guy that if they traded down for, would probably check off a lot of boxes for the Flyers. Colby Barlow might too, because he is a pure scorer, but I probably would take Musty over Barlow, even though I have Barlow ranked a spot higher. And that's simply because I think the Flyers, I'm thinking more of what the Flyers could use. And
Right.
while they're both wingers, I feel like Musty would play a better role for the Flyers. Barlow's got to have big time playmakers with him. And if he doesn't, it's going to not, it won't be as good. He can make some things happen on his own, but he, right now, I don't know where the Flyers playmaking situation is. And that's where I would go with Musty more, because he's more of a go to the net guy and even can be a 2-on-1 guy if he's got the right guy on his line.
Yeah, and I do wonder if the Flyers do trade down in this draft and take a guy like either one of those, like you're saying, if they then punt a defenseman to the second round, if they can pick up a second rounder as the other pick.
Well, I would punt the defenseman to the second round simply because I don't think there's any real superstar defenseman in this draft. I like
Yeah.
Sandin Pellikka a lot, and they certainly could get him, but he still might be a second pairing guy, which is good. I mean, he could run a power play; he's really good, but is he really going to be much better than Cam York? Probably not. And so, I just feel like
No.
you're probably better going in the second round and just kind of seeing what's left, and maybe take a little bit more of a risk if you have a pick there,
Yes.
and shoot high on that one instead. Like Barlow, just to give you an example, he's got 46 goals in 59 games. It's a lot of goals. And
Yeah.
he is a 6'1" guy. So, when I say goal scorer, he's scoring them. Musty, just so you could get an idea, with Sudbury, who also they're going to be playing in the playoffs. He's got 73 points in 50 games, 24 goals. So a little more well-rounded than Barlow, and that's why I'm thinking might be a better fit. He's still 17, so there's a little bit of extra runway on him. So that's good. Maybe he plays with a guy like Kaplan in the future. Who knows?
Right.
Spitballing here.
Well, there'll be a lot more time to discuss this, and the rankings will shift, and where the Flyers will end up will get more solidified. So we'll check back in at the end of the season on where the rankings are and where the Flyers pick is. In the meantime, we do have a bunch of games left for the Flyers to play, and we will talk about the game against the Red Wings coming up next.
The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
All right, Russ. So the Flyers have, I believe, after the game from last night, 13 games left
Yeah.
in the season. And so, not much time left to work on different things, but there will be time to get some of those prospects like Tyson Foerster some more time perhaps, or call up Bobby Brink or call up Ronnie Attard like we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, the Detroit Red Wings are in a bit of an up and down situation. We did see them recently. The Flyers won 3-1 earlier this month. The Red Wings played the Blues last night. We don't have those results yet, but before that, they won in a shootout to the Blues. They had a home and home and lost to the Panthers, Avs, and Preds. So have not been successful as of late. They've had some injuries. Husso had been out in net. We don't know if he's going to be back in against the Flyers, but a lot of moving pieces and parts with this team still due to injury.
Yeah, no question. They play a very spirited game, and sometimes they can be out physical, and sometimes not. Uh, we've seen where Moritz Seider really, puts it out there and starts crushing guys, and that could happen. And Simone Edvinson is also a big bruising defenseman, so he could do the same if he wants. He's a younger guy, but still pretty pretty big body. So that's something where they've added to their mobility now on the blue line's better. Maybe they're not going to be as strong defensively because they're younger guys. Dylan Larkin's always going to kill the Flyers,
Right.
Guarantee. And if Lucas Raymond's in there, he's going to give them trouble, no doubt about it. Yeah, I think your note about faceoffs being important is massive because
Yep.
Larkin is a faceoff shark. He's really good, and again, we would like to see, at least on this show, Morgan Frost take a few more because
Exactly.
I've spoken to other people, and they all are in agreement that, and Jason was too, that Frost is faster in the circle. I get it that Cates may be a little stronger physically to kind of win it after the fact, but the numbers aren't bearing out lately for Cates. And why not ride Frost for a little while and see how he looks in that? That's what I would kind of do here. No matter who they have in net, it's going to be pretty good. I think it'll be up to the Flyers to see which Flyers show up and what kind of game. I mean, it's almost a guarantee they're going 11-7. I don't know if that's a benefit to them or not, but we'll see how that shakes out too.
Yeah, and Felix Sandstrom should, in theory, be in net for the Flyers for this one. So another good opportunity for him in this game against an up-and-coming team, that's a little banged up. So I think that's a good scenario for him there. The Flyers could sweep the season series if they win this game, which would be a nice little thing to have, if they're
Something like that, but yes.
yeah, I think it could be. Obviously we have mixed feelings again with the draft rankings and positioning there, but next week looks to be, I think, really important in terms of losing games against particular opponents. We've got the Habs, the Sens, and the Sabres, who are much closer to the Flyers in that list, and so.
Yeah.
I think maybe if they win against Detroit but lose those games, that's probably the better approach.
I don't know if they're going to lose to the Sabres. The Sabres are sinking faster than way faster
I know.
than the Flyers. Ever since they've been, that 10-goal game, they've been getting harpooned. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a lofty wish for you.
I know, and you look at the schedule months ago, and you're like, this week won't matter much, and suddenly there's going to be some huge implications here, but we will definitely talk about those games next week and see how it all plays out. There will be a link to Russ's draft rankings in our show notes, so make sure you check those out as well. We'll be back on Monday to talk about the game against Detroit. We'll have our nemesis of the week, and we will have a mailbag next week as well. So you can tweet us at Locked On Flyers or email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Comment over on YouTube to send those questions in. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at @rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. Now make your next listen Game to Game NHL. It's every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. It's available on the Locked On NHL feed anywhere you get your podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.